Let's go back to 1950 and visit the world's largest mine in Bingham, Utah, and even see what used to be the small town that was soon gobbled up whole.
The Kennecott Copper Corporation once ran copper ore by rail 16 miles from the Bingham Canyon pit mine to processing plants at Magna, Utah. These 125-ton General Electric 3,000-volt DC Magna motors were built in 1947. Before then, steam locomotives were used for the task. The open-pit mine area had been electrified by 1929 to use the 750-volt DC units to haul raw copper ore. It was the last of Utah's great electric rail projects. It can be seen from the orbiting space station with the naked eye. It is still operating today with a diameter of 2.5 miles at the rim. Every level of this terrace work had mining tracks with trains the apparent size of toys in this vast excavation. Each day 250,000 tons was removed from this mine. Some of the mining areas had fixed catenary wiring that allowed the use of normal pantographs on the pit mine locomotives. Active ore areas used sideways pantographs and movable catenary towers we'll see later. The Kennecott's track to Magna was built after World War II to take ore to the concentrator plant. By 1964, a second line was built to the new Bonneville concentrator. It featured an easy 1.35% grade that's downhill for loads. Before 1941, when Kennecott Copper bought the operation from the Utah Copper Company, the mine used its steam-powered Bingham and Garfield, or B&G, with its heavier 2.5% grade. The Hercules plant is an explosive factory that provided much of the powder to blast rock in the mine. Another early connection was with the Rio Grande, but the Grande was unwilling to provide the type of specialized service desired. The B&G was built to better serve the mining operations. The Bingham Canyon community had a township and housing for many of its mine workers. By 1870, the mines operated for gold and silver, until finally by 1906, copper. Many immigrant groups lived and worked here. After World War I, it was nicknamed the League of Nations, although this arrangement worked in far better harmony than the ill-fated League. Nestled in the canyon was the single road and Bingham's town area. The town was surrounded by railroad tracks and general mining activities. Eventually, the communities and the town were dismantled, bit by bit, as the mine was expanded. Here's a brief look at the town that vanished entirely by 1972. The mine workers were taken in and out of the pit by rail at shift changes. Several of the cars used for this transport service were heavily rebuilt from the defunct Salt Lake and Utah trailer cars 701 and 702. This is a good view of some of the movable catenary towers and the use of a side-reaching pantograph on a locomotive. In the loading areas, this allowed the huge powered shovels loading ore cars to swing their bucket out over the center of the track without shorting out the overhead wiring. The motorman could pneumatically raise the normal center pantograph or one of the two special side-reaching pantographs. Here, 1929 built number 732 operates on the normal center pantograph. Work trains broke the monotony of the ore trains. The mining and the railroad operated year-round in all types of weather. At shift changes, the workers were absent, while blasting loosened additional rock and copper ore. Workers were then brought in after the dust settled. Track and catenary towers were shifted away from the resulting rubble to allow more ore to be loaded. The center pantograph is lowered and the right sidearm pantograph is extended in the next scene. By 1952, two tunnels gave better access to the pit. The first tunnel, built in 1944, was 3,975 feet long, and a second 7,000-foot-long tunnel was added in 1952. A third 7,000-foot tunnel that led directly to the Copperton Yard was added in 1959. The Bingham mine has produced more copper than any other mine in the world. It's all the more amazing since the ore is only 0.6% copper. Trains to the concentrators were operated in 2-unit sets. Each set ran 18 daily round trips between Copperton Yard and the mills at Magna, Arthur, and Bonneville. The ore cars were unloaded with rotary dumpers to get the train back to empty status as quickly as possible. Part of the processing of the ore yields other metal besides copper. Tiny amounts of gold and silver add up to produce 500,000 ounces of pure gold and 4 million ounces of silver each year. This residual work compares favorably to many gold and silver mines for production. Molten slag dumping was one of the more spectacular operations provided by the rail line. The trains between the concentrators and Copperton Yard were typically 90 cars long. Each car could hold 100 tons. Fortunately, the grade back uphill was the direction empty trains took.
For much more content, visit our website, and thanks for watching.